Hello, guys, how are you everyone? Today we explain Spider-Man, Brand New Day, 2026, part by part. So let's start. Part 1. The birth of a new Spider-Man, the untold story behind Marvel's boldest new beginning. What happens when the entire world forgets who Spider-Man is? Imagine sacrificing everything you've ever loved. Not your powers, not your life, but your very identity. Every friendship, every relationship, every memory that made you who you are, erased in a single moment. For Peter Parker, that impossible choice became reality at the end of Spider-Man: No Way Home. The world was saved, but at a heartbreaking cost. MJ no longer remembered him. Ned had no idea who he was. Even the Avengers were left without the knowledge that Peter Parker had once stood beside them. For the first time since joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Spider-Man wasn't just alone. He was invisible. And that is exactly where Spider-Man, Brand New Day begins. This isn't simply another superhero sequel. It represents one of the biggest turning points in Spider-Man's cinematic history. A fresh chapter where Peter Parker must rediscover himself without friends, without family, and without anyone cheering him on. It's the beginning of a completely different life. A life where Spider-Man has nothing left except responsibility. Today, we're diving deep into everything officially known about Spider-Man, Brand New Day, its development, its meaning, its cast, its place inside the MCU, and why Marvel believes this movie could redefine Spider-Man for an entirely new generation. This is the story behind Marvel's newest beginning. For nearly a decade, Tom Holland's Spider-Man has grown before audiences' eyes. Unlike previous cinematic versions, this Peter Parker entered a world already filled with superheroes. He learned from Tony Stark. He fought alongside Captain America during the Avengers' civil conflict. He traveled into space. He battled Thanos. He witnessed the snap. He lost his mentor. And eventually, he made the greatest sacrifice of his own life. His journey has never been about becoming the strongest hero. It has always been about becoming the right hero. Every movie pushed Peter one step closer to independence. In Homecoming, he learned that the suit didn't make the hero. In Far From Home, he struggled under Tony Stark's enormous legacy. And in No Way Home, he finally discovered that true heroism sometimes means losing everything. That emotional ending fundamentally changed the direction of Spider-Man's story. Marvel Studios had successfully completed Peter Parker's origin, not by showing Uncle Ben's death once again, but by forcing Peter into complete isolation. Only then could the classic Spider-Man truly emerge. That idea lies at the heart of Brand New Day. Rather than introducing a hero discovering his powers, this film follows a hero discovering himself. The title itself carries enormous significance. For longtime comic readers, Brand New Day immediately recalls one of Marvel Comics' most discussed Spider-Man storylines. Without revealing comic-specific developments as if they were part of the film, it's worth understanding why Marvel chose this name. The phrase, Brand New Day, symbolizes fresh beginnings. A reset. A new identity. A second chance. For Peter Parker, every familiar part of his previous life has disappeared. His apartment is gone. His relationships are gone. His public identity is gone. Even though he remembers everyone else, nobody remembers him. That emotional imbalance creates one of the most fascinating starting points Spider-Man has ever had on screen. Instead of relying on billionaire technology or famous allies, Peter must rebuild everything from scratch. A cheap apartment, a homemade suit, a regular job, ordinary struggles. These are the elements that made Spider-Man beloved for over 60 years. Marvel appears ready to embrace that grounded approach once again. Another reason this movie has attracted enormous attention is its creative team. The film is directed by Destin Cretton, whose previous Marvel work demonstrated an impressive ability to balance emotional storytelling with large-scale action. Rather than focusing solely on explosions and visual spectacle, Cretton often emphasizes character relationships, internal conflict, and human emotion. That style naturally fits Spider-Man. Because beneath every mask, Spider-Man has always been one thing first: a kid trying to make the right decision. The screenplay continues Marvel's tradition of mixing heartfelt drama, humor, and high-stakes adventure while expanding Peter Parker's personal journey into completely unexplored territory. Instead of repeating previous formulas, the creative direction suggests a stronger emphasis on maturity. This Peter Parker isn't the excited teenager meeting the Avengers anymore. He's becoming the adult Spider-Man fans have waited years to see. Tom Holland returns once again as Peter Parker. Over several films, Holland has transformed from an energetic high school student into a far more emotionally complex character. His performance in No Way Home proved that Spider-Man stories can be both emotionally devastating and deeply hopeful. Now comes perhaps his greatest challenge. How do you portray loneliness when nobody around your character even knows who he is? That's a unique emotional situation rarely explored in superhero cinema. Instead of dramatic speeches or massive battles, some of the film's strongest moments may come from quiet scenes where Peter watches people he loves living perfectly normal lives without him. Those moments define Spider-Man more than any action sequence ever could. Because Spider-Man has never been powerful due to his abilities. He's powerful because he keeps choosing kindness despite unimaginable pain. Zendaya is also expected to return as MJ, continuing one of the MCU's most beloved relationships. However, after the events of No Way Home, that relationship exists under entirely different circumstances. Peter remembers every shared memory. MJ remembers none. That imbalance creates emotional possibilities unlike anything seen before in this franchise. Rather than continuing an established romance, both characters now stand at opposite sides of forgotten history. Part 2: How Spider-Man Was Reborn, the complete journey to Marvel's most important new era. Every superhero has an origin story, but only a few get the chance to experience one twice. For Peter Parker, the battle against Green Goblin wasn't the end of his story, it was the beginning of a completely different life. A life where nobody knows his name, nobody remembers his sacrifices, and nobody is waiting for him at home. The greatest tragedy wasn't losing a fight. It was becoming a stranger to everyone he loved. Now, years after Spider-Man, No Way Home forever changed the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Spider-Man, Brand New Day arrives with a mission unlike any previous Spider-Man movie. This isn't about becoming Spider-Man. It's about discovering what Spider-Man truly means when everything else has been taken away. Today, we're exploring the complete journey behind Marvel's newest Spider-Man chapter, from its surprising development, creative vision, emotional direction, and what makes this film one of the MCU's most anticipated projects. This is the story of a hero starting over. From absolutely nothing. When audiences first met Tom Holland's Peter Parker in Captain America: Civil War, he wasn't the Spider-Man many comic readers expected. Instead of struggling completely alone, he was recruited by Tony Stark himself. His homemade suit was quickly replaced with advanced Stark technology. He fought beside the Avengers. He traveled across galaxies. He stood against Thanos. He became part of battles that determined the fate of the universe. For some fans, this modern interpretation felt exciting. For others, something seemed missing. The classic image of Spider-Man has always been that of an ordinary young man balancing impossible responsibilities with everyday problems. Rent, school, work, relationships, bills, personal sacrifice. The neighborhood hero, not the billionaire's protégé. Marvel appeared to understand that concern. Rather than immediately presenting audiences with the traditional version of Spider-Man, they spent years building toward it. Each film quietly removed another layer of Peter's dependence. First, he learned not to rely on the suit. Then he learned not to rely on Tony Stark's legacy. Finally, in No Way Home, he lost everyone who had ever supported him. Only then did Peter Parker truly become the independent Spider-Man generations of readers had loved for decades. That transformation wasn't an accident. It was carefully planned. The ending of No Way Home remains one of the most emotionally powerful conclusions in MCU history. Peter walks into a small apartment. No advanced technology. No billionaire resources. No famous friends. Just a police scanner, a sewing machine, and a homemade Spider-Man suit. The symbolism couldn't be clearer. Marvel wasn't ending Spider-Man's journey. They were finally beginning it. That final sequence served almost as a silent promise to longtime fans. The next chapter would feel different. Smaller. More personal. More grounded. That promise became Brand New Day. Unlike many Marvel projects that focus heavily on world-ending threats, Spider-Man stories often succeed because their emotional stakes feel personal. Saving New York can be exciting. Saving one friendship can be heartbreaking. Spider-Man has always existed somewhere between those two worlds. He faces extraordinary dangers while worrying about completely ordinary problems. That's what separates him from many other superheroes. His greatest enemy isn't always a supervillain. Sometimes it's loneliness. Sometimes it's guilt. Sometimes it's simply trying to keep moving forward despite overwhelming loss. Those universal emotions have allowed Spider-Man to remain one of the world's most beloved fictional characters for more than 60 years. Every generation recognizes something familiar inside Peter Parker. Not because they can swing between skyscrapers, but because they know what it feels like to struggle. One fascinating aspect of Brand New Day is its timing within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The MCU has expanded dramatically over recent years, introducing new heroes, new dimensions, and increasingly larger cosmic stories. Against that backdrop, Spider-Man offers something refreshingly human. While gods battle across galaxies and multiversal threats reshape reality, Peter Parker still worries about paying rent and protecting his neighborhood. That contrast gives Spider-Man a unique identity inside the MCU. His stories remind audiences that heroism doesn't always require cosmic powers. Sometimes it requires choosing to help one person, even when nobody notices. Marvel's decision to continue Tom Holland's journey also reflects the character's lasting popularity. Over multiple appearances, Holland has portrayed Peter Parker growing from an eager teenager into a young adult carrying unimaginable emotional weight. Each experience has shaped him. Losing Tony Stark, witnessing universal destruction, watching Aunt May die, choosing to erase himself from everyone's memory. These aren't isolated tragedies. Together, they form the emotional foundation of the Spider-Man audiences we'll meet in Brand New Day. He's stronger. But he's also more vulnerable than ever before. Because strength without connection can quickly become isolation. One of the most interesting creative choices surrounding the film has been Marvel's remarkable secrecy. Unlike some previous productions where significant plot details became public months before release, Brand New Day has remained surrounded by carefully controlled information. Official announcements have confirmed major cast members and creative leadership, yet the central narrative remains largely undisclosed. That secrecy has fueled countless theories across the internet. Some fans expect street-level crime stories. Others anticipate entirely new villains. Many hope to see Peter rebuilding relationships from the ground up. But until Marvel officially reveals those details, every theory remains exactly that, a theory. And perhaps that's fitting. Spider-Man has always thrived on surprises. The title itself deserves closer attention. A Brand New Day doesn't erase yesterday. It acknowledges yesterday while choosing to move forward. Peter Parker cannot undo his sacrifices. He cannot restore lost memories with a simple conversation. He cannot pretend the past never happened. Instead, he must build something entirely new from the ruins of everything he once had. That idea resonates far beyond superhero storytelling. Part 3. The Man Behind the Mask, Why Spider-Man's Hardest Battle Has Only Just Begun. Hook. Every superhero has an enemy. Sometimes it's a powerful villain. Sometimes it's an alien invasion. Sometimes it's the end of the universe. But for Peter Parker, the greatest enemy has always been something much simpler. Loneliness. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that every person who ever laughed with you, cried with you, trusted you, or loved you, has forgotten you completely. Your closest friends walk past you like strangers. The woman you love looks into your eyes without recognizing your face. Your greatest sacrifices have disappeared from history. No applause. No gratitude. No memories. Just silence. That heartbreaking reality is where Spider-Man, Brand New Day truly begins. Unlike previous Spider-Man adventures filled with massive crossover events and multiversal chaos, this chapter promises something far more personal. It's the story of a young man trying to rebuild his life from nothing while carrying memories that no one else shares. Today, we're exploring why Brand New Day could become one of the most emotionally powerful Spider-Man films ever made, how Marvel reached this turning point, and why Peter Parker's greatest challenge has never been defeating villains, but learning how to live after losing everything. This is the story of the man behind the mask. For decades, Spider-Man has represented something different from almost every other superhero. Bruce Wayne inherited unimaginable wealth. Thor was born a prince. Captain Marvel gained extraordinary cosmic abilities. Doctor Strange mastered the mystic arts. Peter Parker, however, has always remained ordinary. He worries about money. He worries about school. He worries about work. He worries about disappointing the people he loves. Even after gaining incredible powers, Peter never stopped being human. That humanity is the foundation of every great Spider-Man story. His victories matter because they come with real consequences. Every choice costs him something. Sometimes it's time. Sometimes it's happiness. Sometimes it's the people closest to him. The responsibility he carries is invisible to everyone except himself. And that's what makes his journey so compelling. When Marvel Studios introduced Spider-Man into the MCU, they chose a different path from previous films. Audiences didn't watch Peter get bitten by the radioactive spider. They didn't witness Uncle Ben's death. Instead, they met a young hero who had already taken his first steps toward becoming Spider-Man. This decision allowed Marvel to focus on a different kind of growth. Rather than showing Peter discovering his powers, they explored what those powers meant in a world filled with legendary heroes. Standing beside Iron Man inspired him. Fighting alongside the Avengers challenged him. But eventually, Peter had to learn that no mentor could make his decisions for him. Every lesson brought him closer to independence. Tony Stark played a major role in Peter's early journey. He believed in Peter before the rest of the world even knew Spider-Man existed. He gave him opportunities that no ordinary teenager could have imagined. Advanced technology, powerful suits, access to the Avengers. Yet Tony also expected Peter to think for himself. One of the most memorable lessons from Homecoming came when Peter lost the suit. Tony reminded him that if he couldn't be Spider-Man without the suit, then perhaps he shouldn't have it at all. At the time, Peter didn't fully understand those words. Years later, they became more meaningful than ever. After the events of No Way Home, the advanced suits were gone. The powerful connections were gone. The Avengers were gone. Peter was left with nothing except his own determination. Ironically, losing everything finally made him the Spider-Man Tony always believed he could become. Another defining aspect of Peter Parker's story has always been sacrifice. Heroes often save the world. Spider-Man usually saves the world by sacrificing his own happiness. That pattern repeats throughout nearly every version of the character. He misses important moments. He struggles to maintain relationships. He carries enormous guilt over people he couldn't save. Yet despite every setback, he chooses to keep helping others. Not because someone rewards him, not because people admire him, but because he believes it's the right thing to do. That unwavering sense of responsibility is what separates Peter Parker from countless other superheroes. He doesn't fight because it's easy. He fights because someone has to. The conclusion of No Way Home elevated that idea to an entirely new level. Faced with a collapsing multiverse, Peter made the ultimate decision. He allowed Doctor Strange's spell to erase every memory of Peter Parker from the world. It wasn't an act of desperation. It was an act of love. He chose everyone else's safety over his own future. He accepted a life of complete isolation if it meant protecting the people he cared about. That choice defines who Peter Parker truly is. Not his powers, not his intelligence, not his suit. His willingness to sacrifice everything for others. As Brand New Day begins, Peter enters adulthood under circumstances unlike anything he has experienced before. No family waiting at home. No close friends calling his phone. No classmates recognizing his face. No mentor offering guidance. Every day becomes an opportunity to rebuild. Finding a place to live. Finding work. Creating a new routine. Designing a new Spider-Man suit with limited resources. These ordinary struggles may appear small compared to battles against cosmic threats, but they carry enormous emotional weight. Because this is the first time Peter must face life entirely on his own. He is no longer protected by anyone else's shadow. He must become the hero and the man he chooses to be. One of the most compelling questions surrounding Brand New Day is not who the villain will be. It's who Peter Parker will become. Will isolation make him stronger? Will loneliness change his outlook? Can he open his heart again after losing everyone he loves? Marvel has kept these answers carefully hidden, allowing audiences to experience Peter's next chapter without knowing every twist in advance. That uncertainty adds to the excitement. The future is unknown, just like Peter's. And perhaps that's the true meaning behind the Part 4: A Hero Without a Home. Why Brand New Day could be Spider-Man's most human story yet. What if the hardest battle a superhero ever faced wasn't against a villain, but against an empty apartment? No family waiting at home. No best friend sending a message. No one calling your name. No one remembering your birthday. No one even knowing you exist. That isn't the beginning of a horror movie. It's the new reality of Peter Parker. After saving not just New York but the entire multiverse, Peter receives no celebration, no recognition, and no reward. Instead, he steps into a world where every meaningful connection has disappeared. For most people, that kind of loneliness would be unbearable. For Spider-Man, it's just another responsibility. And that is what makes Spider-Man Brand New Day one of the most fascinating chapters in Marvel Studios' history. Rather than asking how Spider-Man will save the world, this story asks a much deeper question. How do you save yourself when everything that made you who you are has vanished? Today, we're exploring the creative vision behind Brand New Day, why Marvel chose this direction after No Way Home, and how this film represents the rebirth of the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man that generations of fans have loved for decades. Spider-Man has always been different from other superheroes. Most heroes become stronger as their stories progress. Peter Parker often becomes more burdened. Every victory creates another sacrifice. Every success demands another loss. That tragic cycle has defined Spider-Man since his earliest comic book adventures. He saves strangers. He misses family dinners. He defeats criminals. He loses relationships. He protects cities. He sacrifices personal happiness. Unlike many heroes who eventually escape their hardships, Peter Parker continues carrying them throughout his life. That isn't a weakness. It's the reason audiences connect with him. Because life rarely becomes easier simply because someone is doing the right thing. The Marvel Cinematic Universe introduced audiences to a version of Spider-Man unlike any before. Instead of beginning alone, Peter entered a world already filled with legendary heroes. He admired Tony Stark. He worked beside the Avengers. He experienced events that few superheroes could ever imagine. But beneath those extraordinary adventures remained the same ordinary teenager. A young man trying to balance school, friendships, responsibility, and fear. That balance became increasingly difficult as Peter's world grew larger. By the end of No Way Home, the universe had changed, but so had Peter. The boy who once looked to Iron Man for guidance now stood completely on his own. No mentor. No support system. Only responsibility. Marvel's decision to end No Way Home with Peter living alone marked one of the boldest creative choices in the MCU. There was no triumphant celebration. No reunion. No emotional reward. Instead, audiences watched Peter quietly move into a modest apartment, unpack a few belongings, and begin sewing a homemade Spider-Man suit. That scene lasted only a short time. Yet it communicated something incredibly important. The era of the student was over. The era of the independent Spider-Man had finally begun. For longtime comic readers, this felt familiar. For newer audiences, it represented an entirely fresh beginning. The title Brand New Day perfectly reflects Peter's emotional journey. A new day doesn't erase yesterday. It grows from it. Peter cannot undo the sacrifices he made. He cannot force people to remember him. He cannot reclaim the life he once had. Instead, he must create a new one. That idea resonates because everyone experiences change. Dreams evolve. Friendships fade. Life moves forward whether we're ready or not. Spider-Man's story reminds us that moving forward doesn't mean forgetting the past. It means carrying its lessons into the future. One of the greatest strengths of Spider-Man has always been his relatability. He isn't perfect. He makes mistakes. He doubts himself. He worries constantly. Sometimes he fails. Yet despite every setback, He refuses to stop helping others. That persistence has inspired generations of readers and moviegoers alike. Spider-Man isn't extraordinary because he never falls. He's extraordinary because he always gets back up. Again. And again. And again. Another exciting aspect of Brand New Day is the opportunity to explore New York City from a more grounded perspective. Previous MCU Spider-Man films often balanced neighborhood adventures with global threats. This new chapter appears positioned to return Peter to the streets where his legend first began, helping ordinary citizens, stopping everyday crimes, protecting neighborhoods rather than entire planets. That smaller scale doesn't reduce the stakes. Instead, it makes every decision feel more personal. Because when Spider-Man saves one person, that one person becomes the entire world to someone else. Tom Holland's portrayal has evolved alongside the character. The energetic teenager audiences met years ago has gradually transformed into a more mature and emotionally layered hero. Each challenge has left its mark. The loss of Tony Stark. The responsibility of protecting mysterious technology. Battles across the multiverse. The death of Aunt May. The heartbreaking decision to erase himself from everyone's memory. These experiences shape the Spider-Man audiences we'll meet in Brand New Day. He carries scars that cannot be seen. Yet those invisible wounds often define true heroism. Marvel Studios has intentionally kept much of the film's plot under wraps. That secrecy has encouraged endless discussion among fans. What kind of threats will Peter face? Who will become his allies? Can relationships once thought lost ever be rebuilt? While speculation continues, the officially revealed information points toward a story focused on growth, resilience, and responsibility rather than simply larger action sequences. That approach feels appropriate. Spider-Man has never needed the biggest explosions to tell the biggest stories. Sometimes, the quietest moments become the most unforgettable. At its heart, Spider-Man, Brand New Day represents hope. Not the kind of hope that promises life will become easy, but the kind that reminds us tomorrow is another chance. Part 5: The Legacy of Responsibility, How Brand New Day is Redefining Spider-Man for a New Generation. Heroes are often remembered for the battles they win. Spider-Man is remembered for the sacrifices no one ever sees. Every bruise heals. Every broken building can be rebuilt. But some sacrifices leave scars that never disappear. Peter Parker understands that better than anyone. He has watched mentors fall. He has lost family. He has carried guilt that no teenager should ever have to endure. And just when it seemed life couldn't become more painful, he made the ultimate choice, to save the multiverse by allowing everyone to forget that Peter Parker ever existed. No applause. No headlines. No recognition. Only silence. That silence becomes the foundation of Spider-Man, Brand New Day, a story not about becoming a superhero, but about remaining one when the world has forgotten every good thing you've ever done. This isn't simply another chapter in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's the beginning of a completely different era. Today, we'll explore how Marvel is reshaping Spider-Man's future, why this film matters far beyond action and spectacle, and why Peter Parker's greatest strength has never been his superpowers, but his unwavering determination to keep doing the right thing, even when nobody knows his name. For over 60 years, Spider-Man has stood apart from nearly every other superhero ever created. He isn't defined by wealth. He isn't defined by royalty. He isn't defined by military power or cosmic abilities. He's defined by choice. Every day, Peter Parker wakes up with the opportunity to ignore responsibility. He could choose an easier life. He could stop risking everything. He could finally put himself first. Yet every single day, he chooses otherwise. That simple decision has become one of the most inspiring ideas in superhero fiction. Because anyone can dream of having superpowers, far fewer people are willing to carry responsibility without expecting anything in return. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has gradually transformed Peter Parker through a carefully constructed journey. When audiences first met him, he was enthusiastic, inexperienced, and eager to prove himself. Meeting Iron Man felt like a dream. Joining the Avengers felt impossible. Every mission became another lesson. Every mistake became another opportunity to grow. Marvel resisted the temptation to make Peter instantly perfect. Instead, audiences watched him fail. They watched him doubt himself. They watched him mature through experience rather than instant success. That evolution made every triumph feel earned. By the conclusion of No Way Home, Peter was no longer searching for approval. He had become someone capable of making impossible decisions alone. The ending of No Way Home fundamentally changed the emotional landscape of Spider-Man's story. The spell cast to protect reality erased Peter Parker from everyone's memory. Friends continued living their lives. The world continued moving forward. Only Peter remembered what had been lost. That lonely reality becomes the emotional heartbeat of Brand New Day. Rather than focusing on reclaiming the past, Peter must learn how to build a future from nothing. It's an idea that feels both deeply personal and universally relatable. Everyone reaches moments where life changes unexpectedly. Plans disappear. Relationships end. Dreams evolve. The future no longer resembles what once seemed certain. Peter Parker now stands at exactly that crossroads. One of the most fascinating aspects of Spider-Man is that he never allows hardship to erase compassion. Despite everything he has lost, Peter continues helping strangers. He rescues people who don't know him. He protects neighborhoods that will never celebrate him. He risks his life for individuals who may never even see his face. That's what separates Spider-Man from many traditional heroes. Recognition has never been his motivation. Doing the right thing has always been enough. Marvel Studios appears ready to embrace a more grounded storytelling approach with Brand New Day. Rather than constantly escalating toward larger cosmic conflicts, this new chapter offers an opportunity to return Spider-Man to the streets of New York City, the place where his legend truly belongs. Helping ordinary people. stopping everyday crimes, listening to the concerns of his community. These smaller moments often reveal far more about Peter Parker than world-ending battles ever could. Because Spider-Man has always been the hero closest to ordinary life. His greatest victories aren't measured only by enemies defeated. They're measured by lives quietly changed for the better. Tom Holland enters this chapter carrying more emotional history than any previous cinematic Spider-Man. Years of adventure have shaped his character into someone far more resilient than the teenager audiences first met. But resilience doesn't mean the absence of pain. It means learning to continue despite it. Peter has experienced grief, loss, disappointment, isolation. Yet none of those experiences have destroyed his hope. Instead, they've strengthened his understanding of responsibility. Every sacrifice has reinforced the same lesson. Power matters, but character matters even more. The title brand New Day symbolizes more than a fresh beginning. It represents renewal without forgetting. Peter cannot erase his memories. He cannot undo his sacrifices. He cannot recover the years that disappeared. But he can decide what kind of person he wants to become tomorrow. That message resonates because every audience member understands the desire for another chance. A chance to grow. A chance to improve. A chance to begin again. Spider-Man reminds us that every sunrise offers exactly that opportunity. Marvel has wisely kept many story details confidential, allowing anticipation to build naturally. Official announcements have confirmed the film's development, principal cast, and creative team, while leaving the central narrative largely undisclosed. This approach preserves the excitement of discovery. Instead of revealing every surprise before release, audiences will experience Peter's next journey alongside him. Sometimes the greatest moments in cinema are the ones nobody expects. Ultimately, Spider-Man, Brand New Day isn't simply about another superhero adventure. It's about resilience. It's about identity. It's about hope surviving even after unimaginable loss. Part 7. The Forgotten Hero, Why Spider-Man's Greatest Enemy May Be His Own Past. History remembers legends. But what happens when history forgets one? Imagine saving the universe, only to discover that no one remembers your sacrifice. No statues, no celebrations, no grateful friends, no family waiting for you. The world moves forward as if you never existed. For Peter Parker, that nightmare became reality. He didn't lose because he wasn't strong enough. He lost because doing the right thing demanded the ultimate price. And now, with Spider-Man: Brand New Day, Marvel Studios begins a story unlike anything we've seen before. A story where the greatest challenge isn't defeating evil, but rebuilding a life that has already disappeared. Today, we'll explore how Spider-Man reached this point, why Marvel chose this bold direction, and how Brand New Day could become one of the most emotionally mature chapters in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because sometimes, the hardest part of being a hero isn't fighting villains. It's learning to live after the battle is over. Spider-Man has always been known as the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. At first glance, that title sounds simple. It suggests a hero who protects local communities rather than chasing worldwide fame. But there's a deeper meaning hidden inside those words. A neighborhood is built on relationships. People know each other's names. They trust one another. They remember acts of kindness. Peter Parker has always fought to protect those connections. Ironically, after No Way Home, those very connections disappeared from his own life. He still protects the neighborhood. The neighborhood simply doesn't know who he is anymore. That emotional contradiction lies at the heart of Brand New Day. Throughout Marvel history, Spider-Man has never been defined by victories alone. Every success comes with consequences. Stopping one disaster often creates another challenge. Saving strangers sometimes means disappointing loved ones. Balancing those impossible choices has always separated Peter Parker from many other superheroes. His greatest battles aren't fought only against villains. They're fought within himself. Every decision forces him to ask the same question. What is the right thing to do? Not the easiest. Not the safest. The right thing. That commitment to responsibility has become Spider-Man's greatest superpower. When Peter first entered the Marvel Cinematic Universe, everything felt exciting. Tony Stark believed in him. The Avengers accepted him. His future appeared brighter than ever. But Marvel carefully avoided making Peter's journey too comfortable. Every movie quietly removed another layer of security. Tony Stark died. Peter faced public exposure. Enemies targeted the people he loved. Finally, reality itself demanded a sacrifice unlike anything he had ever imagined. Rather than protecting his own happiness, Peter chose to protect everyone else. That single decision transformed him forever. One reason Spider-Man continues connecting with audiences is because his struggles feel authentic. Most people will never battle supervillains. Few will travel through the multiverse. But everyone understands loneliness. Everyone understands disappointment. Everyone experiences moments when life changes unexpectedly. Peter Parker simply experiences those emotions on an extraordinary scale. His pain reminds us of our own. His perseverance inspires us to continue. That's why Spider-Man has remained relevant across generations. He isn't perfect. He's human. The title Brand New Day carries remarkable emotional weight. A new beginning isn't the same as forgetting the past. It's choosing not to let the past define the future. Peter remembers every friendship, every conversation, every promise, every sacrifice. Those memories still shape him, even if nobody else shares them. That imbalance creates one of the most unique emotional situations ever explored in a superhero film. The audience remembers. Peter remembers. The world does not. Marvel Studios appears to be embracing a quieter, more grounded approach to Spider-Man's future. Rather than relying entirely on increasingly larger threats, this new chapter offers an opportunity to focus once again on character. Who is Peter Parker without recognition? Who is Spider-Man without a support system? Can hope survive isolation? These questions carry emotional stakes that no explosion or visual effect can replace, because great stories aren't remembered only for spectacle. They're remembered for truth. One fascinating aspect of Peter Parker's character is that he never allows suffering to destroy his compassion. He continues helping strangers. He continues risking his safety. He continues believing that every life matters. That optimism isn't naive. It's courageous, especially after everything he has lost. Many people would become bitter. Peter becomes more determined. Many people would stop trying. Peter keeps moving. That resilience defines true heroism. Tom Holland now enters perhaps the most significant phase of his portrayal. Earlier films explored Peter's excitement. Now the focus shifts toward maturity. Responsibility no longer feels like an adventure. It feels like daily life. Every morning begins with uncertainty. Every evening ends with another sacrifice. Yet Peter never questions whether helping others is worthwhile. That quiet consistency has always been Spider-Man's defining characteristic. Marvel has officially confirmed the continuation of Peter Parker's story while keeping many narrative details secret. This approach allows audiences to experience genuine surprise when the film arrives. Rather than revealing every major moment beforehand, the studio has chosen to preserve mystery. That decision reflects confidence in the character himself. Spider-Man doesn't need constant twists to remain compelling. Peter Parker's emotional journey has always been enough. Ultimately, Spider-Man: Brand New Day represents more than another superhero sequel. It represents renewal, growth, acceptance, the understanding that while yesterday cannot be changed, tomorrow remains unwritten. Peter Parker enters this new chapter carrying memories nobody else possesses. He walks through a city that no longer recognizes him. He protects people who will never know his name. And somehow, he still smiles behind the mask. Part 8. Price of being Spider-Man, why every new beginning comes with a sacrifice. There is an old saying, every ending is the beginning of something new. But nobody ever talks about what happens in between. The silence, the loneliness, the uncertainty. For Peter Parker, that silence became his new reality. After risking everything to save the multiverse, he didn't return home as a celebrated hero. He returned to an empty apartment, a city that had forgotten his name, friends who no longer remembered the moments they shared, a future with no guarantees. Most heroes earn peace after making the ultimate sacrifice. Spider-Man earned another chance to struggle. And perhaps that's exactly why millions of people continue to see themselves in Peter Parker. Because real life rarely rewards the people who do the right thing. Sometimes, doing the right thing simply gives you another difficult day to face. That is the emotional foundation of Spider-Man, Brand New Day. A story not about destiny, but about choice. Not about fame, but about responsibility. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the next evolution of Marvel's most relatable hero and exploring why this chapter could become one of the defining stories of Spider-Man's cinematic legacy. Spider-Man has always represented ordinary people living extraordinary lives. Unlike many superheroes, Peter Parker never wanted fame. He never wanted power. He never dreamed of becoming a global symbol. He simply wanted to help. That simple motivation has remained unchanged through decades of comic books, animated series, video games, and films. Technology changes. Costumes evolve. Villains come and go. But Peter Parker's heart has never changed. That's why every generation discovers Spider-Man as if he were created just for them. His struggles are timeless. When Marvel Studios introduced Spider-Man into the MCU, they intentionally avoided repeating the familiar origin story. Instead of showing the radioactive spider bite or Uncle Ben's death once again, audiences met a young Peter already trying to balance heroism with everyday life. That decision allowed Marvel to explore something different. Rather than asking, "How did Peter become Spider-Man?" the films asked, "How does Peter become the Spider-Man he is meant to be?" Each adventure answered part of that question. Every victory came with another lesson. Every mistake became another step toward maturity. Tony Stark became one of Peter's earliest mentors. Their relationship extended beyond technology. Tony recognized something inside Peter that few others noticed. Compassion, curiosity, selflessness. He believed Peter possessed the character required to become a true hero. Yet Tony also understood that one day Peter would have to stand alone. No mentor can fight another person's battles forever. Eventually, every student must discover their own path. Brand New Day represents that moment. For the first time in the MCU, Peter Parker truly belongs to no one except himself. The ending of No Way Home fundamentally transformed Spider-Man's future. The spell that protected reality erased Peter Parker from the memories of everyone who knew him. It wasn't a temporary setback. It wasn't a misunderstanding waiting to be corrected. It was a permanent sacrifice. Peter remembers every friendship, every conversation, every promise. Yet nobody remembers him. That heartbreaking imbalance creates emotional storytelling opportunities unlike anything previously explored in the MCU. Instead of rebuilding a superhero team, Peter must rebuild a human life. One of Spider-Man's defining qualities has always been resilience. Resilience isn't pretending pain doesn't exist. It's continuing despite pain. Peter Parker understands loss better than most heroes. He has experienced grief, disappointment, fear, loneliness. Yet none of those emotions have changed his belief that helping others is always worthwhile. That unwavering optimism separates him from many characters across superhero fiction. Even after losing everything, he refuses to lose hope. Another fascinating aspect of Brand New Day is its potential return to a more grounded style of storytelling. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has explored cosmic wars, alternate realities, magical dimensions, and universe-threatening dangers. Spider-Man offers something different, a reminder that one person's safety matters just as much as saving the universe. Helping a frightened child, stopping a robbery, protecting neighbors, listening to ordinary people. These smaller moments have always defined Spider-Man more than grand spectacles. Because Peter Parker understands something many heroes forget. Every life is important, no matter how small the moment appears. The title itself reflects renewal. A brand new day isn't about forgetting yesterday. It's about refusing to let yesterday become the end of the story. Peter cannot recover the life he lost. He cannot erase grief. He cannot restore forgotten memories. But he can wake up tomorrow and make another good decision. That message resonates because everyone experiences setbacks. Everyone faces uncertainty. Everyone reaches moments where the future seems impossible to imagine. Spider-Man reminds us that hope isn't found by changing the past. Hope is found by choosing the future. Tom Holland now steps into the most mature phase of his Spider-Man journey. Gone is the teenager searching for approval. In his place stands a young man carrying invisible burdens that no one else can understand. His greatest battles may no longer be physical. They may be emotional. Can he trust people again? Can he build new friendships? Can he create a life worth living despite everything he has lost? Those questions promise a deeply personal story that extends far beyond superhero action. Marvel Studios has officially confirmed the continuation of Peter Parker's story, while wisely keeping many important plot details secret. That mystery has encouraged excitement without revealing the film's emotional core. Fans know Peter's journey continues, but exactly where it leads remains unknown. And perhaps that's fitting, because Peter himself doesn't know what tomorrow looks like. He's discovering the future one day at a time, just like the audience. At its heart, Spider-Man, Brand New Day is about beginning again after unimaginable loss. It reminds us that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite fear. Part 9. The world forgot Peter Parker, the untold beginning of Spider-Man's darkest chapter. Every hero dreams of making a difference, But what if making that difference meant erasing yourself from the lives of everyone you love? No goodbyes, no final conversations, no chance to explain. One moment, you're someone's best friend. The next, you're a complete stranger. That is the heartbreaking reality Peter Parker chose for himself. He didn't lose his identity because of a villain. He gave it away willingly. Not for fame, not for glory, but because millions of innocent lives depended on it. Now, as Spider-Man Brand New Day opens a completely new chapter in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Peter stands alone for the first time since audiences met him. No Avengers, no mentor, no family, no one who remembers his name. Only New York City, and the responsibility that never leaves his shoulders. Today, we'll uncover why this moment changes everything, how Marvel carefully built toward this emotional reset over nearly a decade, and why the next chapter of Spider-Man may become his most personal journey ever. Because, sometimes, the greatest act of heroism isn't defeating evil. It's choosing to disappear. Spider-Man has always been one of the most unique heroes in fiction. Unlike characters who inherit kingdoms or discover limitless cosmic power, Peter Parker begins as an ordinary teenager. He worries about homework. He misses deadlines. He struggles with money. He makes mistakes. Those ordinary problems never disappear simply because he becomes Spider-Man. Instead, they grow even more complicated. Every day becomes a balancing act between two identities. One belongs to Peter Parker. The other belongs to Spider-Man. Keeping those worlds separate has always been one of his greatest challenges. Throughout the MCU, Peter's life constantly became more complicated. At first, he believed joining the Avengers would solve everything. Instead, it introduced greater responsibility. Tony Stark trusted him with advanced technology. Nick Fury pulled him into international missions. The fate of entire worlds eventually rested on his shoulders. Despite those extraordinary adventures, Peter never stopped being the same compassionate young man from Queens. His greatest strength wasn't his intelligence. It wasn't his powers. It was his refusal to stop caring about people. That compassion shaped every important decision he ever made. Then came the events of Spider-Man: No Way Home. A mistake involving magic turned Peter's personal life into a worldwide crisis. People from different universes crossed into the MCU. Reality itself began falling apart. Faced with impossible choices, Peter refused to solve the problem through violence alone. Instead, he searched for another way. A better way. Even when those efforts failed, his motivation never changed. He wanted to save everyone. Friends, strangers, even his enemies. That compassion ultimately led to the greatest sacrifice of his life. The final spell erased Peter Parker from the memories of the world. It wasn't simply another superhero ending. It was a complete transformation of the character. Everything audiences had watched for years suddenly became memories shared only by Peter himself. He remembers every adventure, every friendship, every painful goodbye. But the people who experienced those moments beside him remember nothing. That emotional imbalance creates an entirely new foundation for Brand New Day. Peter isn't trying to return to his old life. He knows he can't. Instead, he must discover what comes next. One of Spider-Man's defining qualities has always been adaptability. No matter how difficult life becomes, Peter finds a way to keep moving. He doesn't pretend everything is fine. He feels pain. He experiences fear. He questions himself. Yet every sunrise offers another opportunity to help someone. That daily choice defines his character. Not dramatic speeches, not incredible powers, simple consistency, doing good every single day. Marvel Studios appears to be returning Spider-Man to the environment where he has always been strongest. The neighborhoods of New York. The apartment buildings, the crowded streets, the everyday people who never expected a superhero to appear. This grounded setting allows Spider-Man to reconnect with the heart of his identity. He's not protecting abstract ideas. He's protecting neighbors, families, children, communities, people whose names may never appear in history books. Because Peter understands something important. Saving one person can change an entire world. The title Brand New Day reflects far more than a new adventure. It represents emotional rebirth. Peter Parker cannot recover what was lost. He cannot force destiny to restore forgotten memories, but he can decide who he wants to become tomorrow. That decision lies at the center of every Spider-Man story. The future is never guaranteed. Hope is always a choice. Another fascinating aspect of this chapter is Peter's complete independence. Earlier in the MCU, he often relied on experienced heroes for guidance. Tony Stark offered mentorship. Happy Hogan provided support. Friends helped balance his double life. Now that safety net has disappeared. Every decision belongs entirely to Peter. Every mistake, every success, every sacrifice. For the first time, he carries the full responsibility of being Spider-Man alone. That independence may ultimately become his greatest strength. Marvel has intentionally kept the film's story largely confidential. Official announcements reveal only enough to build anticipation while preserving the mystery surrounding Peter's future. That approach feels appropriate. Spider-Man has always been a character defined by unexpected moments. The greatest emotional scenes often arrive without warning. By protecting those surprises, Marvel allows audiences to experience Peter's journey exactly as he does, with uncertainty, hope, and courage. At its core, Spider-Man, Brand New Day is not about forgetting the past. It's about honoring it while choosing to continue. Peter Parker carries memories no one else possesses. He walks through a city filled with familiar places and unfamiliar faces. He protects people who will never know everything he sacrificed for them. Yet he asks for nothing in return, because that's what makes him Spider-Man. Not extraordinary powers, not advanced technology, not recognition, responsibility, compassion, and an unshakable belief that every life is worth saving. Part 10, From Hero to Legend, Why Brand New Day is Spider-Man's most important chapter yet. Legends aren't created when everything goes according to plan. They're created when everything falls apart. Peter Parker knows that better than anyone. He has defeated powerful enemies. He has traveled across the multiverse. He has fought beside Earth's mightiest heroes. Yet none of those moments define who he truly is. The moment that changed Peter Parker forever wasn't a victory. It was a goodbye no one else remembers. The entire world moved on. His closest friends built new lives. His greatest sacrifices vanished from everyone's memory. And somehow, Peter chose to keep being Spider-Man anyway. No audience, no recognition, no reward, only responsibility. That single choice marks the beginning of Spider-Man, Brand New Day, a story that promises to redefine one of the most beloved superheroes ever created. Today, we're exploring how Peter Parker reached this turning point, why Marvel Studios decided to give Spider-Man a fresh beginning, and why this chapter may become the emotional centerpiece of Tom Holland's entire Spider-Man journey. Because sometimes, the greatest heroes aren't remembered by the world. They're remembered by the lives they quietly protect. For decades, Spider-Man has represented something unique within superhero storytelling. He isn't extraordinary because he possesses incredible abilities. He's extraordinary because he refuses to let hardship change who he is. Most people become heroes after gaining power. Peter Parker became a hero after accepting responsibility. That distinction has always defined the character. His powers allow him to save people. His character gives him the reason to do it. Without compassion, Spider-Man would simply be another powerful individual. With compassion, he becomes a symbol of hope. The Marvel Cinematic Universe introduced audiences to a younger Peter Parker than ever before. He admired the Avengers. He dreamed of proving himself. He believed becoming a superhero would solve many of life's problems. Instead, it introduced even greater challenges. Every adventure taught Peter something new. Responsibility couldn't be avoided. Trust had to be earned. Mistakes carried consequences. Slowly, the optimistic teenager matured into someone capable of making impossible decisions without expecting anything in return. That growth happened naturally over several films. Marvel wasn't simply creating another Spider-Man. They were building a complete coming-of-age story. Tony Stark played a significant role during Peter's early years. Their relationship extended beyond technology and superhero missions. Tony recognized Peter's potential long before Peter recognized it himself. He challenged him. He encouraged him. Sometimes he disappointed him. But every lesson prepared Peter for a future where no mentor would remain beside him. That future finally arrived after No Way Home. For the first time, Peter Parker faced the world completely alone. No Iron Man. No Happy Hogan. No friends who remembered his past. Only himself. The conclusion of No Way Home stands among the most emotionally significant endings in superhero cinema. Rather than celebrating victory, Peter quietly accepted loss. He understood that restoring his old life would endanger countless innocent people. So he let it go. He watched the people he loved continue living without him. He resisted the temptation to reveal the truth, not because he lacked courage, because he loved them enough to let them move forward. That quiet sacrifice speaks louder than any battle. As Brand New Day begins, Peter enters an unfamiliar stage of life. He must build everything again. A home, a routine, a future. The challenges awaiting him may appear ordinary compared to previous adventures. Finding work, paying bills, balancing daily responsibilities. Yet those ordinary struggles have always formed the heart of Spider-Man's identity. Peter has never stopped being an everyday person, even while saving the world. One reason Spider-Man remains timeless is his ability to inspire without perfection. He fails. He learns. He apologizes. He grows. His mistakes never define him permanently. Instead, they become opportunities for improvement. That message resonates because everyone experiences failure. Everyone carries regret. Everyone wishes they could change certain moments. Spider-Man reminds us that the future is shaped not by yesterday's mistakes, but by today's decisions. Marvel Studios appears ready to return Spider-Man to a more grounded environment. The neighborhoods of New York have always been more than a backdrop. They're part of Peter's identity. Every rooftop, every subway station, every crowded street. These familiar places remind audiences that Spider-Man isn't distant from ordinary life. He's part of it. He protects the same city he calls home. That connection has always separated him from larger-than-life heroes whose adventures unfold far beyond everyday experience. The title Brand New Day perfectly captures Peter's emotional journey. A new beginning doesn't erase old memories. It builds upon them. Peter carries every lesson from his past into an uncertain future. He remembers Tony Stark. He remembers Aunt May. He remembers MJ and Ned. Those memories continue shaping every decision he makes. Even if nobody else remembers sharing them, that quiet burden transforms Peter into a more mature, thoughtful hero than ever before. Marvel has officially confirmed the continuation of Tom Holland's Spider-Man while keeping many story details undisclosed. That secrecy has encouraged excitement without revealing the film's emotional surprises. Fans know a new chapter is coming. Exactly what that chapter contains remains a mystery. Perhaps that's appropriate, because Peter himself doesn't know what tomorrow will bring. He simply knows tomorrow deserves another chance. Ultimately, Spider-Man, Brand New Day isn't merely the next Marvel movie. It's a story about resilience, about accepting loss without surrendering hope, about choosing kindness even when kindness goes unnoticed. Peter Parker has lost almost everything that once defined his life. Yet one thing remains unchanged: his belief that helping others is always worth the sacrifice. Every morning, the city wakes without remembering the young man who saved it countless times. But somewhere above the streets, a familiar figure swings between the buildings, answering cries for help before anyone even knows they need him. The world may have forgotten Peter Parker. Part 11. The last lesson of Peter Parker, Why Brand New Day is more than just another Spider-Man movie. Some stories begin with hope. Others begin with tragedy. But the greatest stories begin with sacrifice. Peter Parker has spent years protecting people who would never truly understand what it cost him to be Spider-Man. He missed birthdays. He lost loved ones. He carried guilt that would break most people. Yet through every painful chapter, he never stopped believing that doing the right thing mattered. Then came one final decision. A decision so heartbreaking that it erased Peter Parker from the memories of the entire world. His best friend no longer recognized him. The woman he loved looked into his eyes as if they had never met. The life he spent years building disappeared overnight. And yet, the next morning, Spider-Man still answered the call. No applause, no recognition, no reward, only responsibility. That single choice is the foundation of Spider-Man, Brand New Day, a story that isn't about becoming stronger, but about remaining good when the whirlwind done. Today, we'll explore why this new beginning may become the defining chapter of Spider-Man's cinematic legacy, how Marvel carefully prepared audiences for this transformation, and why Peter Parker's greatest battle has always been against the temptation to give up. Since his first appearance in Marvel Comics, Spider-Man has represented something unique. He isn't a hero because destiny chose him. He became a hero because he accepted responsibility. That distinction has remained unchanged for generations. Many characters receive extraordinary abilities. Very few willingly accept the burdens those abilities create. Peter Parker never asked for an easier life. He simply accepted that power carried consequences. Every decision became another opportunity to place someone else's safety before his own happiness. That philosophy has made Spider-Man one of the most inspiring fictional heroes ever created. When the Marvel Cinematic Universe introduced Tom Holland's Spider-Man, audiences met a teenager filled with excitement and ambition. He admired Earth's mightiest heroes. He wanted to prove himself worthy. He dreamed of becoming something greater than an ordinary high school student. Marvel wisely allowed Peter to make mistakes. He acted impulsively. He underestimated danger. He occasionally let emotion guide his decisions. Those imperfections made him believable. Rather than presenting a finished hero, Marvel invited audiences to watch one grow. Each film became another lesson. Each challenge became another step toward maturity. Tony Stark played an essential role during Peter's early years. More than providing advanced technology, Tony encouraged Peter to trust his own judgment. One lesson became especially important. A hero should never depend entirely on equipment. Character matters more than armor. Years later, after losing every advantage Tony had once provided, Peter finally understood that lesson completely. The expensive suits disappeared. The powerful allies disappeared. The recognition disappeared. Only Peter Parker remained. And somehow, that version of Spider-Man became stronger than ever before. The ending of Spider-Man, No Way Home, permanently changed Peter's world. The spell cast to protect reality demanded an unimaginable price. Everyone forgot Peter Parker. Not Spider-Man. Peter Parker. Every friendship vanished. Every shared memory disappeared. The emotional weight of that sacrifice cannot be overstated. Peter alone remembers everything. He carries every conversation, every promise, every goodbye. The people he loves continue living peacefully, unaware of the pain he quietly carries. That loneliness becomes the emotional heartbeat of Brand New Day. Unlike many superheroes, Spider-Man doesn't measure success through victories alone. Sometimes saving people means losing something precious. Sometimes protecting the future requires letting go of the past. Peter understands this better than anyone. His life has become a series of impossible choices. Yet despite every sacrifice, he refuses to surrender hope. That hope isn't based on certainty. It's based on character. He believes kindness always matters, even when nobody notices. Marvel Studios appears to be guiding Spider-Man back toward the grounded storytelling that first made the character famous. The neighborhoods of New York once again become central to his identity. Instead of constantly confronting universe-ending threats, Peter has the opportunity to reconnect with ordinary people. Helping neighbors, stopping crimes before they escalate, protecting children, supporting strangers. These quieter moments often reveal far more about Spider-Man than massive battles ever could. Because true heroism is measured one person at a time. Another reason audiences continue connecting with Peter Parker is his resilience. He never pretends life is easy. He experiences fear. He experiences grief. He questions himself. But he never allows pain to become an excuse for abandoning responsibility. Every sunrise offers another opportunity to choose compassion, another opportunity to make someone else's life better. That quiet determination has inspired generations, not because Peter is fearless, because he keeps moving despite fear. The title Brand New Day reflects more than a fresh chapter. It symbolizes acceptance. Peter cannot recover everything he has lost. He cannot force the past to return. Instead, he must embrace tomorrow. That emotional journey mirrors real life. Everyone faces moments where familiar chapters end. The future becomes uncertain. The only question remaining is whether we choose to begin again. Spider-Man's answer has always remained the same. Yes, every single time. Marvel has officially confirmed the continuation of Tom Holland's Spider-Man while wisely preserving much of the film's story. That secrecy creates genuine anticipation. Rather than revealing every emotional moment before release, Marvel invites audiences to discover Peter's next journey alongside him. Sometimes the unknown creates the greatest excitement. Every official announcement becomes meaningful. Every trailer invites discussion. Every new detail offers another glimpse into Peter's future. Ultimately, Spider-Man, Brand New Day is about far more than superheroes. It's about resilience after loss. Part 12. A Brand New Day begins, the complete evolution of Spider-Man's greatest journey. There comes a moment in every hero's life when the battle is over, the city is safe, the enemy is gone, the world moves on. But the hero has to live with what happened. For Peter Parker, saving the world didn't bring peace. It brought silence. The people he loved no longer knew his name. The memories that defined his life disappeared in an instant. The future he imagined no longer existed. And yet, as the sun rose over New York City the next morning, Peter Parker made the same decision he had made countless times before. He put on the mask. Not because anyone remembered him, not because anyone expected him to, but because someone, somewhere, would need Spider-Man. That quiet decision is what makes Spider-Man Brand New Day one of the most important chapters in Marvel history. This isn't just another superhero sequel. It's the story of a young man rebuilding his life from the ground up while carrying memories no one else remembers. Today, we're exploring how Spider-Man reached this unforgettable moment, why Marvel Studios chose this bold new direction, and why Brand New Day represents not the end of Peter Parker's story, but the beginning of the Spider-Man fans have always known. For more than 6 decades, Spider-Man has stood as one of the world's most beloved superheroes. Not because he is the strongest, not because he has the most advanced technology, not because he always wins. Spider-Man endures because Peter Parker never stops trying. He falls. He struggles. He questions himself. He experiences heartbreak. Yet every single time, he chooses to stand up again. That resilience has become the defining characteristic of the character across comics, animation, games, and films. Generations have grown up watching Peter Parker face impossible odds without ever abandoning hope. When Tom Holland first appeared as Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, audiences met a teenager full of excitement and ambition. He admired the Avengers. He looked up to Tony Stark. He dreamed of proving that he belonged among Earth's greatest heroes. Marvel intentionally introduced a version of Peter who still had much to learn. He wasn't perfect. He acted impulsively. He made mistakes. But every mistake became another lesson. Every challenge shaped his understanding of responsibility. Over time, audiences watched Peter transform from an enthusiastic student into a young man capable of making the hardest decisions imaginable. Tony Stark's influence cannot be ignored. He recognized Peter's intelligence long before the world appreciated it. More importantly, he recognized Peter's kindness. Tony understood that extraordinary technology means very little without extraordinary character. Throughout their relationship, Peter learned that being a hero isn't about wearing the most advanced suit. It's about making the right decision when no one else can. Years later, after losing every advantage Tony once provided, Peter discovered that lesson had prepared him for something much greater. Standing completely alone. The conclusion of Spider-Man: No Way Home fundamentally reshaped Peter Parker's future. Faced with the collapse of reality itself, Peter accepted a sacrifice few people could imagine. He allowed the world to forget him, not because he wanted a fresh start, but because it was the only way to protect innocent lives. That decision cost him everything: friendships, love, recognition, identity. The people who meant the most to him continued their lives without remembering the role Peter had played within them. Only Peter carried those memories forward. That emotional burden becomes the heart of Brand New Day. One of Spider-Man's greatest strengths has always been his humanity. He worries about ordinary problems. He struggles to balance personal responsibilities with heroic duties. He experiences loneliness. He experiences self-doubt. Those qualities make him relatable in ways few superheroes can match. Marvel's new chapter offers an opportunity to return to those deeply personal themes. Instead of focusing solely on spectacular action, the story can explore the emotional reality of rebuilding a life from nothing. Finding a place to live. Finding meaningful work. Learning to trust people again. These challenges may appear small compared to saving the multiverse, yet they carry enormous emotional significance. Because everyone understands what it feels like to begin again. The title Brand New Day symbolizes hope born from hardship. A new beginning doesn't erase yesterday. It honors yesterday while creating tomorrow. Peter cannot reclaim what he lost. He cannot restore forgotten memories simply because he wishes to. But he can choose who he becomes next. That choice has always defined Spider-Man. Power creates possibilities. Character determines how those possibilities are used. Peter Parker has consistently chosen compassion over comfort, responsibility over recognition, and hope over despair. Marvel Studios has kept many details about the film confidential, allowing anticipation to grow naturally. Official information confirms the continuation of Peter Parker's journey while leaving the central narrative largely undisclosed. That mystery serves an important purpose. Spider-Man stories are most effective when audiences discover Peter's emotional journey alongside him. Every challenge, every victory, every setback, every new beginning. The unknown becomes part of the experience. Another reason Spider-Man continues inspiring audiences is his refusal to become cynical. Life repeatedly tests his optimism. He loses people he loves. He sacrifices personal happiness. He carries responsibilities that would overwhelm almost anyone. Yet compassion remains at the center of every decision he makes. He never asks whether people deserve saving. He simply helps. That quiet kindness has become one of the most enduring aspects of his legacy. Ultimately, Spider-Man: Brand New Day is not simply about another adventure in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's about rediscovering purpose after unimaginable loss. It's about rebuilding identity without forgetting the past. It's about proving that true heroism isn't measured by fame, recognition, or applause. It's measured by the willingness to continue doing what's right, even when no one knows your name.